Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we'll make a fougasse. A fougasse is a traditional French bread. It's supposed to resemble the shape of a leaf, and it's quite similar to a focaccia, just a lot more crusty. But you may have noticed that this is not just a plain bread. I've got jalapenos, bacon and cheese on it. This is definitely a supercharged fougasse. And if you're not into that, you can check out my regular fougasse video in the link in the top right corner. Well, let's get on with this, and as always, you'll find a full detailed recipe down in the description box with metric and imperial units. So let's see what equipment we need. We'll need a tray with some non-stick paper, a bowl, scales, dough scraper and a temperature probe. That is it. Now on to the ingredients: some strong white bread flour, water, wholemeal flour, yeast, salt, olive oil. I'll need some cheese cubes, some jalapenos, bacon and some grated cheese. Now my kitchen is around 20 degrees Celsius, so my water ought to be around 10. To learn more about dough temperature control, click the link in the top right corner. Now let's get on with this bread. Grab a bowl, add most of the water. You want to keep 2 tablespoons aside. Then add the wholemeal flour and the white flour. And grab your scraper and mix it until there's no more dry flour. And if the scraper's not doing the job, continue on by hand. You really want to mix this until there's no dry bits left. Now flatten the dough out, sprinkle over the salt and dimple it in with a wet hand. We are not adding the yeast at this point. This step that we're taking now is called autolyzation. We are hydrating the flour. You want to cover this up and leave it to sit for 30 minutes. This step will help with the gluten development, and it will make the dough expand more when it's baking, make it more airy. I have a full video on this on my channel, so you can check it out if you want. So after the 30 minutes of autolyzation, fold the dough over to seal in the salt. This is to prevent the salt getting in contact with the yeast too much. So add the remaining water to the yeast, give it all a good mix and pour it over the dough. Now wet your hand and squeeze it all together. It will feel like a soggy mess to begin with, but trust me, it will come together. This will take a minute or so. Now pop it out on your table and start kneading. This dough is not very sticky at all, so I'm going to use my regular kneading method. What I like to do is press down and forwards with the heel of my right hand, then using the fingers of my left hand I fold the piece of dough under the heel of my right hand, then turn and repeat. Once you've done this a few times, the motion will become fluent. And like I said earlier, the autolyzation step helps with gluten development, and that helps cut down the kneading time. So you want to knead this dough for around 4 minutes. Don't worry if it's still a little bit sticky when you finish. That's because of the wholemeal flour. You can wet your hands to handle the dough. Now get your bowl, add the oil and the cheese cubes, and then place the dough on top of them. We will incorporate these ingredients by performing a series of folds. As you can see, I wet my hands with water so the dough is not sticking to them. Now get your probe and take the temperature. 25 to 26 degrees Celsius is just about right for this. Now cover it up and leave it to ferment for 30 minutes. And after the first proof, we need to fold in the ingredients. Now wet your hands with some water, pick the dough up by the sides, release it from the bowl and roll it underneath itself. Then release the back side and also roll that underneath. And then you can pick it up and kind of push the edges into the middle. And as you can see, with one fold, we've almost incorporated all the ingredients. Now cover the dough up again and leave it to ferment for 30 more minutes. It should start puffing up quite well during this time. After the second proof, we'll give it another fold. Same as before, wet your hands with water, release the dough from the bowl and roll it underneath itself. Now cover it up and leave it to ferment for 30 more minutes. Now get a little bit more oil and pour it around the dough. Now grab your scraper and release it from the bowl and roll it around in the oil so that the oil covers the whole surface of the dough. I mean, we are really going for it today. This is a proper fatty dough. Now place it on a tray lined with non-stick paper. Flatten it out a little bit, but don't go too crazy. We will stretch it out more during the final proof. And the final fermentation should not take more than 30 minutes. Now because it's oily, you don't have to cover it up with cling film. So don't worry about it drying out. Now preheat your oven to 220 degrees Celsius with a fan on. And once the dough is puffed up nicely, we can start topping it. And you can top it with whatever you like. It doesn't have to be cheese and pancetta and jalapenos if you're not into that. You could just top it with olives. Now spread the cheese all over the surface with a nice even layer and then press it in with the palms of your hands. And this is how you get that leaf shape. Grab your scraper and cut slits into the dough, right down to the paper. Remember, the more cuts you do, the more crispy the dough will be. So if you don't like crusty breads, don't cut it that much. Maybe do only 3 cuts. But if you like it really crispy, then just shred it up. Just make sure you stretch it out so the cuts are open. And now top it with the rest of the ingredients. The cheese will act as a glue. It will make everything stick to the dough. But you can also press all the ingredients in so they don't fall off. Now this will take no more than 20 minutes to be done. And that's how you make Fougasse, quick and easy. You could also make this bread with pre-ferment to get more flavor. But I think in this case it's not necessary because we're topping it with so many ingredients. So check out my other videos because I got plenty Fougasses and focaccias and ciabattas and pizzas and all kinds of stuff on my channel. And if you have any questions or suggestions, drop them down in comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.